Hello, I'm Sally Jenkin. I'm the lead for the Community Engagement Charter. Today I'll go through how to use the Community Engagement Charter in the planning system. The Charter is within the DPTI Act and it applies to state planning policies, regional plans, the Planning Design Code, infrastructure schemes and design standards. Councils, regional boards and the State Planning Commission will use the Charter in preparing these instruments. The Charter does not apply to development assessment, and the consultation on these will be in the regs and the Planning Design Code. The intent of the Charter is to get people more involved in policy and strategic settings so they understand why things are happening in their area when it actually occurs. The Charter has 5 principles. These principles need to be met when undertaking engagement in accordance with the Charter. Engagement is genuine, which means that you're actually doing genuine for a purpose. You're not just doing for the sake of engagement, that you actually listen, and it's more a behavioural aspect. So you can do any sort of process or tool, but at the end you need to be there genuinely engaging for a purpose. Engagement is inclusive and respectful. This one's more about identifying your stakeholders and learning what their needs are and how the best to consult with them, and when you do that, how to be respectful of their needs and individual needs. Engagement is fit for purpose. This is one is how you actually identify how you might engage for the project you're doing, whether it's small or large, and what the best fit is. It also enables you to think about how to do that engagement to fit the stakeholders identified. Engagement is informed and transparent. This one is about the information you provide, making sure that the people that are being consulted and engaged on understand the information that's provided. They understand the story and understand why and how they can get involved, and understand what's not for consultation. Transparency is important so that people understand the process, why they're doing it, when, and what the next steps are. Engagement is reviewed and improved. This one's very important because by reviewing and improving and evaluating your engagement enables you to ensure that you are actually meeting the 5 principles. It's important to keep evaluating success of engagement and change your engagement plan as you go along. In regard to the process, the 5 principles are embedded into the engagement plan that you need to prepare up front for the State Planning Commission. This engagement plan is prepared around the initiation stage and is provided to the Commission when you lodge your initiation documentation. The Commission is responsible to agreeing to the engagement plan, whilst the Minister is responsible for agreeing to the initiation. Once your engagement plan is signed off, you may undertake the engagement. The engagement must be done in accordance with the engagement plan. It must also make sure that you're evaluating your engagement as you go through with your stakeholders so that you can check that you're meeting the mark. You can amend your engagement plan as you go along to ensure that you're being improved, reviewing and improving, and make sure and adapting to what you hear. It's also important during this stage to close the loop with the participants as you go along. I'll go through these later on. After you finish your engagement plan, it's a requirement of the Act that you prepare an engagement report. A practice direction by the State Planning Commission has been prepared that outlines the requirements of this report. This report basically outlines how you engage with the community, what you heard and what the outcomes of that engagement is. It also provides analysis of the evaluation of the engagement process. This engagement report is lodged for the Minister for Planning when you want to seek approval for your policy matter. The Minister will determine whether it should go to the State Planning Commission or not. So if he considers that the engagement may not have met the principles of the Charter, it will be referred to the State Planning Commission, who can seek to rectify the matter. After approval of the policy or strategic matter, the engagement report is put on the SA Planning portal with the actual policy itself. This ensures that the stakeholders have a transparent understanding of what occurred during the consultation process and how their submissions were actually heard in the outcome. To help practitioners and councils meet the 5 principles of the Charter, 5 steps have been developed to help you get guided through this process. These are very similar to any best practice engagement across the state and the world, but they have been targeted to be useful in the planning context. It is step 1 and 2, getting ready to engage and planning it correctly, are probably the most important ones in terms of making sure that your engagement plan is right and steers the way for a great engagement process. It helps you to define what you're engaging on, identifying the stakeholders, identifying when you're going to engage and what engagement activities you will undertake. It makes you consider what your organisation capacity is to deliver, whether you have the budget or the expertise or the time frame that you need to do what you want to do, and it also requires you to think about developing measures of success, which I will go on later. Step 3 is about engaging in a constant engagement plan, closing the loop, gathering measures of success. As I said before, when you do the engagement report, that's more about reporting and evaluation. And then finally, the 5th step is about reflecting and learning and working out how you can best improve in the future. A Community Engagement Charter Toolkit has been prepared and is on the SA Planning portal for all to access. This toolkit is a shared resource for councils and for practitioners, and it will be updated over time, so any additional tools is welcome. The toolkit provides a number of quick links, case studies of a number of matters that can help you with the 5 steps of engagement, and a range of tools and templates. The templates are there that you can use or be guided for how to do things, but none of them are mandated. In regard to the evaluation process, in the engagement plan you are required to outline what evaluation measures you will be using. The State Planning Commission, to help with this, has created 5 standard evaluation measures that must be used for this purpose. This ensures that a consistent approach to evaluating success of engagement will be used. The 5 questions are for the members of the community to use, and there are additional questions for the people undertaking the engagement on the project. When and how you get the evaluation of these questions is not mandated. So these evaluation measures are embedded in the engagement plan, and it's important that you ensure that you collect those results of evaluation during the engagement. So the results of this is used for 2 purposes. Firstly, for providing advice to the Minister about meeting the Charter principles, and secondly, to collect evaluation results across all projects under the Charter to help inform whether the Charter needs improving in the future. It is a responsibility of the Commission to review the Charter at least every 5 years. At the moment, this Community Engagement Charter is being used by the State Planning Commission for the preparation of the state planning policies. The first use of the Community Engagement Charter is for the state planning policies. So at this time, the Charter is being tested. As an outcome of the finalisation of the SPPs, the toolkit will be revised from our learnings from that project. The first deployment of the code will also be using the Community Engagement Charter as well, and the Charter will be further tested in this regard. Councils will not be using the Community Engagement Charter in a statutory sense until the code is in place for that council. So for regional areas, this is from the end of 2019, and for metropolitan councils, this is from the end of 2020. However, you may want to use the principles of the Charter in any engagement activities and planning you are currently undertaking. And it's suggested that you particularly think about this if you're doing a development plan amendment under the current system that may be brought into the code process later on. Thank you, and I recommend that everyone has a look at the toolkit and provides any suggested comments or tools for the future. Thank you.